Shmuel Ben Asher, who passed away a week or two ago, and the learning is in memory, and the food is in memory in his honor. And now Rabbi Shuchat is going to give a shir, Hilchot Shabbos. Thank you, Rabbi Shuchat, for coming.
Good Yom Tov. The topic of today's shir is the usage of internet commerce on Shabbos. It's a topic which has a lot of interesting halachas which are relevant to it. A lot of interesting halachas in general, both in Hilchot Shabbos and Choshen Mishpat, in which all of them have some relevance to understanding the question. Because obviously in the time of the Shulchan Aruch there was no internet, there was no automated commerce, and there is nothing in the Shulchan Aruch which refers to this scenario. So we have to go through the background, some halachas which are relevant, and through that we will understand what is the halachas which are relevant to the internet. One of the Aseres Adibris about Shmiras Shabbos states that L'man Yanuach, in Shabbos, your animal, your slave, have to rest. The halacha is that if an animal is owned by a Jew, that animal is not allowed to do a melacha on Shabbos. Which is therefore, in a situation where you have an animal which belongs to a Jew, you're not allowed to lend it to a goy to do a melacha on Shabbos. That's the page 1 over there at the bottom. Sif Zayin says that Osir lahashil behemtoi lenochi lasva melacha. A Jew is not allowed to lend his animal to a goy to do with it a melacha. And the goy is going to use it also on Shabbos. And the person, a Jew, is also obligated to make sure that his animal does not allow his animal to do work on Shabbos. That means as long as the animal is owned by a Jew, the animal is not allowed to do any melacha on Shabbos. Obviously the animal could do whatever it wants, but to have the animal do work on Shabbos, you're not allowed to. However, if you have an object, kalim, and the object is not included in this prohibition. Therefore, mid'oraisa, there's no prohibition to have your object do. Even mid'rabanan, there's no straight prohibition to have an object do a melacha for you. Which is why, if you have a keli which a melacha started in it before Shabbos, you are allowed to continue. It's allowed to continue on Shabbos also. Which that's number 2 in Reish Mem Vav. It says you're allowed to give your kelim, vessels, to a guy, even though he will do melachot on Shabbos, because she'eino no mitzvah nashris hakelim shalanu. The only restriction is when you get paid for somebody using your kelim on Shabbos, you're not allowed to get paid specifically for Shabbos. That means you could give it to him for a week, give it to him for a month, give it to him for a year, but you can't give it to him and tell him for Shabbos, I'm charging you this and this amount. Now, that is the first thing to know. Certain things that you own are not allowed to do melacha on Shabbos for you. Certain things that you are allowed to. And the same thing is in number 3. You're allowed to start a melacha. Not only are you allowed to give a guy a keli, you're also allowed to start the melacha with your keli on Erev Shabbos, and it will continue by itself on Shabbos. The example Alter Rebbe gives is if you take a bucket with coloring, and you stick into it cloth or pieces of cloth, and you let it sit in there. So obviously when Shabbos starts, if you put it in right before Shabbos, not a second before Shabbos, but early enough, it's not going to get fully colored by the time Shabbos starts, but it could stay sitting in that bucket through Shabbos also. Now, this is part 1. First halachas that are relevant to this case. The next topic which is relevant, the next topic which is relevant to this case is there is a prohibition from the Chachamim not to do any buying or selling or any sort of commercial interactions on Shabbos. That is a number 4. Asur liknei, say limka, you're not allowed to buy, you're not allowed to sell. Chen lisker, to rent, or lahasker, to rent out, b'Shabbos. Why? Gzeira shema yichtev. Because of Gzeira that he might write something on Shabbos, and that is Issa Deraisa. Therefore, the halacha is that you're not allowed to do any business on Shabbos, even there's a bunch of even if you only say it with your mouth, you don't do any transfer of money, whether you give it to him today, whether you just decide on the price, all that is usher.
The only reason why it's usher is because of ksiva.
It's a gzeira shema yichtev.
The reason why you're not allowed to buy and sell on Shabbos is the only market.
Gzeira shema yichtev. So steht. Now, what happens if you have a business deal which starts on Erev Shabbos and it concludes on Shabbos? That means you did the business deal, you started the business deal on before Shabbos, and the completion of it without the Jews' involvement is going to be on Shabbos itself. There's a machlekes there's Rabbi Kiva Eger's opinion, it's number 5, where he says that if somebody sells something on Erev Shabbos, and he says, go do the kinyan, you pick it up tomorrow, or he tells him, I'm selling you something today on condition that you do something, and the guy does it the next day, and then he could acquire the object, that's Asur according to Rabbi Kiva Eger. Why? Because the kinyan, the acquisition, completed on Shabbos. So Rabbi Kiva Eger, the majority of the poskim disagree with him. We have Teras Chesed, a Talmud of the Tzemach Tzedek. He is on number 6. He disagrees with him. He writes a two long tshuvas. Siman Yud Gimel, Siman Yud Daled, where in Siman Yud Gimel, he explains his logic why it is permitted. Siman Yud Daled, he reiterates his explanation, and then he also explains why he doesn't hold the Rabbi Kiva. He says, based on my explanation, it's about 20 pages between the two Siman together, the Rabbi Kiva Eger's questions don't make any sense, and therefore we don't have to follow his chumrah. What is his svara? His svara is exactly the opposite. He says the kinyan began on Erev Shabbos. The kinyan became a reality on Erev Shabbos, or in the chalois, the time when it became a reality is on Erev Shabbos. Therefore, the fact that on Shabbos it completed has no relevance on the actual malacha. There's nothing, you didn't do anything wrong.
Is there Rabbi Kiva Eger?
This is the Teres Chesed disagrees with Rabbi Kiva Eger. Rabbi Kiva Eger says also. Teres Chesed disagrees and says, being that the act of acquisition, the kinyan, happened on Erev Shabbos, it makes no difference when the guy actually came and picked up the product. It's mutar. That's one reason. Second reason is he says the whole reason why you're not allowed to do business on Shabbos is because of writing. If you already wrote everything before Shabbos, the guy picked it up the next day, there's no chashash of you being able to write it. So therefore he says it's mutar. These are the two extremes in it. There's an interesting tshuva from the Marshag. He was a Rav in Hungary. And this is in number 7, which is the beginning of automatics in the world. There was a vending machine. So it's not exactly automatic. It's not electric, but it's automatic. There's a vending machine, someone puts money in, he turns, and something falls out. The question is, are you allowed to use it on Shabbos? So first he explains what it is.
To use it or to have it?
To have it and to own one on Shabbos that people are going to use it. Do you have to go around out of Shabbos locking your machines, or you could leave them and people will be able to use them on Shabbos? So first he explains the machine. I guess
people being goyim or yidden, it doesn't make a difference.
It will make a difference to a certain degree. Obviously, in a city which is totally Jewish, there's a whole different question of lifnei iver. We're going to get to it hopefully at the end. It's the last point. He explains. It's interesting to see how his explanation, if somebody has time to look through it. He says there's candies, there's chocolate. You put into it a coin, And then, based on the coin you put in, you could decide, you could open a small box, and you could take the candies or chocolate that are for this amount of money. So he goes in his logic. He said it's mutter, but only if it's in an area not in the Jew's private property. Aside for the general isurim of having a goy do malacha for you on Shabbos, or there's also restrictions of something which even a goy is allowed to do on Shabbos for himself. A goy, he's not allowed to do it in your own property. So when you have in your own property, he says if it's in the property of the Jew, then you're not allowed to. If it's in a Reshus Harabim, if it's outside in a public place, then he sees there's no problem with it. And then he says, and even Rabbi Kiva Eger, who is machmer about a kinyan which begins before Shabbos and concludes on Shabbos, over here the Jew put the candies before Shabbos, and the guy came and put the coins on Shabbos and bought the chocolate. That's not, Rabbi Kiva Eger would still be matir. Why would he be matir? He says, because the only time Rabbi Kiva Eger is machmer is if the Jew plans it in such a way. The Jew makes a plan that on Erev Shabbos I'm going to do a kinyan, and on Shabbos it's going to be completed. That's awesome. But over here the Jew is not planning this kinyan that this guy is going to buy this piece of chocolate on Shabbos. It goes by itself. It goes by itself. He does not see it. He says it's not a problem. Now, aside for the prohibition of doing business on Shabbos, there's other restrictions. You're not allowed to make money to derive benefit from money which was generated for you on Shabbos, called schar Shabbos. That means, even if you have a guy, certain things that a guy does, if he does it for the Jew, even if he's allowed to do certain things, certain restrictions, the Jew is not allowed to have benefit from that money. It's not completely usher. There's ways. There's different restrictions. It's not so important right now, but if there is such a concept as schar Shabbos is also a problem. Therefore, go back to what we said before, that if it's combined together with the schar of the rest of the week, then it's mutter. But if it's specific, then it's a problem.
Like a balkoira.
Right. A balkoira gets paid for preparation. He doesn't get paid for Shabbos. Same thing as a chazan. Also, before Shon Yom Kippur, Allah is the reason he gets paid is for preparation.
What about a babysitter from Shabbos?
So it is a problem, and some people say that the babysitter come and say Shabbos and spend a few minutes in the house, and then when she comes to pick up the money, let her wash a dish or something, and then you pay her for that.
It's not aroma.
It's
not aroma.
Or you pay for the week. You give it a few days together. Yeah.
So it's like, I think it's like havla or something.
Yeah, havla. That's a concept. It's havla. You get paid for the whole week in one shot, so it's muvla. It's swallowed in, and then it becomes bottled to the rest. Now, if there is another restriction, a business which everybody knows belongs to a Jew, it's called Shema Yisrael, then you're not allowed to have to partner with a guy, to rent it to partner with a guy, if people are going to think that this business, which is owned by a Jew, is operating on Shabbos. So if a Jew has a kosher food store called Cohen & Cohen, and he takes a guy as a partner, he obviously can't get away with it. Everybody's going to know that it belongs to a Jew. I mean, today in America, Cohen Lav Dafka is Jewish, but I'm saying an example, or a fully kosher store, nobody's going to think that it's owned by a guy. So how could you do such a thing? The Alter Rebbe says if it's a place where it's common, that this is in number 9. He says if it's number 9, he says even in places where you're not allowed to put the Manasayin, if you take a guy as a partner, and everybody knows that the first thing you take a guy as a partner, everybody knows that the guy is making money off it. And he's only lanas atzum iskav, and all the reason he's working is for his own benefit, not for the Jew. Therefore, in such a scenario, if it's a place, it's in a place where it's common that they allowed the goyim and Jews to be partners, then people are not going to think that it's a marasayin. They're going to say, well, This city, everybody has partners with goyim, so it's not a problem. They're not going to think that the Jew is working on Shabbos. So aside from the restrictions on making money on Shabbos and having something generate money for you on Shabbos, it's also a problem of Ma'asayin if somebody's going to think that your business is open on Shabbos. However, you are allowed to, it's on the next page, number 10, you are allowed to give a goy you're allowed to give a goy merchandise and tell him, go ahead, go do business. And he could sell whenever he wants. You can't tell him go sell on Shabbos. You could give him a box of merchandise, tell him you go and sell it. And when you're done selling, you'll either make a percentage or you'll get paid for your work, because that way the guy is doing it for his own benefit, not for the Jew's benefit, and it's permitted. And now the Rebbe says there's no problem with Ma'asayin, because nobody's going to think that this guy, that the schayra, that the merchandise and the money which is in the hands of this guy actually belongs to the Jew. Nobody knows where he got his stuff from. Therefore, it's not a problem to have a guy do it on Shabbos.
But if people know that this merchandise belongs to Yankel only is the only one who imports this specific merchandise, then it's a shayla probably, no?
Does he sell to resellers also?
Oh, so then it wouldn't be. But if it's exclusive that only Yankel has
in Chinatown today, you get exclusive stuff that got picked up, fell off a truck or something. So it's not, you don't know where it comes from.
But in the vice, if you did exclusive,
the vice, if you know, or if a guy represents a company,
right,
yeah, it's a problem.
Then it's a problem.
Yeah. If a guy represents it, it's clear that he's doing it for the Jew, it's a problem. Now, these are prohibitions. There's another concept called zilzul. Something which on Shabbos might not be prohibited according to the books, but it's something which destroys the spirit of Shabbos. So you have two interesting tshuvas. There was a Rav in Switzerland called Breish. He wrote the Tshuvas Chalkis Yaakov, and he wrote two tshuvas which seem to be contradicting each other, but he explains why they're not. The first one is: are you allowed to put a machine which takes pictures for you, takes pictures on Shabbos? Those photo booths. You put money in and it takes a picture of you. And if there is a problem, what's the issue with? Is there an issue with having such a thing? So that's the number 11. And first he explains that what Rabbi Akiva says that you're not allowed to do, like what Rabbi Akiva Eger says that you're not allowed to start a business deal on Erev Shabbos and complete on Shabbos doesn't apply here, because it's only if the Yid tells specifically plans it to happen on Shabbos. And then he said another thing. He says the whole prohibition of melacha by a goy on Shabbos, he brings in Alter Rebbe, it's midin shlichus, that the Jew sent the goy to do something for him, and therefore it's prohibited. But if he does not do it, if he's not sent by the Jew to do it, so then there's no prohibition on Shabbos to it. He's doing it for himself, and therefore there's no prohibition to make money off it. The guy is doing it for himself. The fact that the Jew owns the machine does not create any problems. And then he goes into a separate topic. He goes on the second page of this tshuva, it's the Tzadik Tes. He says, if you want to start looking for problems in business, the bottom of Tzadik Tes, he says we have a bigger problem. Problem is, Ma'asim b'chol yoyim, that people send on Erev Shabbos merchandise to go through the mail. And a lot of times also express, because the buyers want to receive it on Shabbos. And over there, the kinyan is definitely completed on Shabbos, because the Jew wants to satisfy his customer. The guy wants it specifically on Shabbos. And it says, and therefore he says, and then he goes through and he looks to figure out a way to find the heter. He leaves it. He says there's a way to find the heter, as long as there's no issue of Ma'asayin. If it's sent before Shabbos in such a way that as long as you don't tell them specifically, bring it on Shabbos, then it's not a problem.
So according to this, he sent something Friday overnight. He FedExed it overnight. So she get that Mamash and Shabbos, technically.
But for who is it? Who is the question then goes into who is the post office working for?
Who is the FedEx working for? He's working for me.
He's working for the seller or for the buyer?
He's working for me. I'm paying him, so he's working for
So
me.
it goes back to the question, when does the Kinyan start?
The Kenyan, I think Friday, the Chayder. My side of the Kenyan, his side of the Kenyan is Shabbos.
His side of the case, when does he become responsible for payment? So it depends. Today, the way people look at it is, that if something gets lost in transit, the responsibility of it is the responsibility of the seller, not of the buyer.
Right.
The seller has to replace it.
Right.
If it will be the responsibility of the buyer, then the FedEx is working for the guy. If it's the responsibility of the seller, then FedEx is working for the seller.
Right.
So then it becomes a problem if it's specific for the Jew. However, usually with the way we look, the reason why people, one of the Hetatim that are presented for it is, the guy is not working specifically for the Jew. The FedEx truck is delivering 1,000 packages that day in this truck, a few hundred packages. The Jew's package is one package, so he's doing a malacha for the goyim. The Jew's package is not, he's not working specifically for the Jew. The problem would be if it's a delivery where it's only for the Jew. If you have a truck which is delivering furniture or something big where the truck is specifically only for the Jew, then you have a problem. Or a courier which travels specifically with something, then you have a problem.
To order Amazon Prime next day on Friday, you know it's coming to Shabbos, you allowed to or not?
It's you want to order Prime, you know for sure it's going. Do you want it on Shabbos? If you want it on Shabbos, it's a problem.
I want it on what's the Shabbos?
It could arrive to you when it's a Shabbos. There's enough time for when you order it. You can't order it 5 minutes before Shabbos.
How long do you have to wait?
Enough time, you should be able to make it to you with the hours before and after Shabbos.
From Kentucky, it takes a few hours.
I don't know. It takes a flight, it's an hour and a half.
We don't know where it's coming from.
It could be coming from
That
Brooklyn.
warehouse is over here.
Yeah, it could be coming from an hour from 2 hours away. So this is...
B&H has trucks that they have. Whoever works with FedEx with B&H, they have trucks, empty, big trucks, and they fill up, and then every FedEx truck that comes, they take the truck and bring an empty one. So the truck that's being carried is all of their business.
Right, but they're pretty strict on Shabbos in general.
Yes, but I'm saying they close early enough.
That the guy has enough time to go.
Yeah, they close, they start shipping at 12 o'clock, they have cutoff times.
Right.
Everything. At 1:30 p.m. everything's shipped.
On the other side, the same Chalkas Yaakov is a different tshuva, which is number 12, where he says about having an answering machine on Shabbos. If you have an answering machine in your business where people could call, leave an order, and on Mitzvah Shabbos, the Jew is going to look at it and fulfill the order. And he says, first of all, maybe I could compare it to the vending machine. And then he says, no, I can't compare it to the vending machine. This is prohibited, he says. He says, if the Jew has to do any action before Shabbos, in those days you had to clear the tape, you had to do any action before Shabbos to set up the answering machine on Shabbos, then what he's doing is he's working on Erev Shabbos to do something specific on Shabbos, and it's Asr. And then he says, then he goes and he says another interesting, it looks like a shtickle of a nevuah, that was, he says, Chutz mizeh, aside for it's on the second column of number 12 towards the bottom, where it says in quotation, Chachamim hizaru b'divreichem. It says, Ne'emar Chachamim hizaru b'divreichem. Chachamim, be careful in what they say. Bizman sha'technik tzayid kach tzadim kodima. Technology is going in such big steps forward. V'yuchal yez b'yomim kroivim. It could be in the near future. The Sader Chanus Gdoila, they'll arrange a very big store. Al yidei automat v'tanban. The store is going to be fully automatic. It's going to open at a specific time. And the people are going to walk into there. There's nobody there. Just through technology and automation and everything else, everything's going to be arranged. They'll give the merchandise to the people. For the money they'll give over there. Then he says the way technology is going, it's not going to be too far a day when this is going to happen.
Which Which year was this
How
from?
many years ago?
This is in Tafshin Chof Aleph, 1961.
David in Seattle, man was us.
Yeah, 1961 he wrote it. He says in V'im Nezalza, B'Kedusha Shabbos, B'Teilim Shal Technik, Mishum Shakon Nasi B'Atzim. If you're going to start being mezalzel and not respecting Shabbos from all the, because of everything is automatic, Yutzvach Mizeh Chilul Shabbos Golo, be big Chilul Shabbos. She'adam b'shivta b'beis HaMedrash, someone sitting in the shul, well, Shulchan is the Shabbos, he's eating the Shabbos, U'menagin Zmiris Echvei Shabbos, he's singing Zmiris, V'oskoi on Misradi Ovid b'Shabbos Avurik V'mezachayel, and his business is working as if it's a weekday. And then he says, and therefore, he says, and then he brings a few ayahs why it's a problem. He says, therefore, he says, it is usher. And he concludes, if you're going to start, even if you're going to find a heter, according to Torah, it could be that the sanctity of Shabbos is going to be so diminished by this action. It's not. We don't want to do such a heter. That's the Chalkas Yaakov. On the other side, you have the Ber Moshe, as in America. He gives and he says that you are allowed to have an answering machine on Shabbos, as long as he says you have to. He says as long as because he's setting it up. There's no problem. Why? Because the owner is not really involved in the operation of the answering machine. He doesn't know who called on Shabbos, didn't call on Shabbos. He's going to find it after Shabbos. He's not doing any action. Therefore, it's mutter. And he concludes,
Take an order and
he's not taking an order. The phone is taking the order. It's a machine. It's an answering machine. On Mitzvah Shabbos, he'll listen to the orders and see who wanted to order something. And then he says, and I saw what the Chalkas Yaakov wrote, that he wants to make a new gzeira. And he says, if all the Rabbanim are going to make such a gzeira, I'll accept. But just one person showing up and making a gzeira, I'm not ready to accept. That's the Ber Moshe. Therefore, he does not agree with this logic of having a prohibition on technology just because it's going to generate a Zilzal Shabbos down the line.
Machine is a different problem.
Answering
machine is a problem. If you tell them, please leave a message, and there's a yid.
So I'm going to get to the yid point in it. We're going to get to the yid point soon. So the Ber Moshe himself writes over here that if the majority are goyim and the very few Jews, then it's mutter. But if there are an amount of goyim an amount of Jews, then it's a problem.
If the majority is Jews, that's a problem.
That's for sure a problem.
Right.
The majority of people are calling you. Not
Right. The majority of people are Jews, yeah. That's a problem.
Even if it's not the majority Jews, if there is a significant amount of Jews that is visible.
What's considered significant?
If
You have 100 people living in the stud. What's considered significant? Is it 50?
You run a business. After a few years, you know your clientele. If you're in general, what you're selling is you have a 20%, 15% of Jews, or even 30% of Jews. You know for sure it's a problem, even if it's not the right. Because you know what you have. Obviously, if you have one Jew calling you, then it's not a problem.
Where do you draw the line? 1 Jew, is it 5 Jews, is it 6 Jews, is it 7 Jews? I mean, where do you draw the line? Where do you say, if I'm doing right, that's it?
There's no clear line. If there is a trend of Jews on a regular basis, and you could see the trend that are calling on Shabbos, that's a problem.
Get a registry of all the yids.
If it's one,
Right,
block
but
them,
you still don't know the number.
You don't know them. If it's one, listen, if you're selling Knesset decorations, you're going to get one Jew, maybe he's going to buy it, but you don't have to worry about it, about that being a problem.
Shliach, it's not a problem, for sure. For a shliach, it's for sure a problem.
Yeah, for sure. But today the answering machine is nothing's prepared for Shabbos. It's all automatic. It's more automatic. Today it's accepted. It's not considered that somebody's doing any action on Shabbos.
No, but
There's no zilzal Shabbos in the answering
when
machine.
you say please leave a message,
Don't forget, you're using it 6 days a week besides Shabbos.
Right.
Please leave a message.
it comes Shabbos, the guy calls a Chabad house.
So maybe you shouldn't. I don't know. Maybe you shouldn't say please leave a message.
Schusterman told me once
Not to do please leave a
you
message.
have to change it. I don't know exactly how to do it, but you shouldn't say that.
Interesting. Yeah, makes sense. So,
Please stop by.
until then he's going to drive on Shabbos. It's a bigger problem.
That's even worse.
Yeah. Up until now, this is in connection to Shabbos. Now, before we go into the actual internet halachas, there's another two aspects that are not directly connected to Shabbos, which are also important to focus on. The first one is, we see over here the whole time there's a concept of kinyanim being mentioned. When the kinyan started, when the kinyan completed. Halachically, to make a kinyan, there is you pick up something, you transfer something from one property to another property. What happens today's day and age? People buy with a credit card. When does the kinyan happen? You're not going to say the kinyan happens when the person opens the box and picks it up. So there is a concept in halacha called setumta. Setumta is a mark on is a certain mark you mark on the product. There was a minhag that you would mark on the product a certain mark, and that way a specific mark, and then the buyer would know this belongs to him. So that's a number 14. The Shulchan Aruch over there says that any kind of siman, this is the top of the page, any kind of siman which is done, is accepted in this industry, in this line of business, is already considered as a kinyan, because that's how they accepted it. And so if today in day and age, when the credit card is swiped, it's considered a kinyan, and it's considered a kinyan from the moment it's swiped. Now, when you order online, there's a few steps. You have when it's swiped, which is when you type in the number. You have when it's actually charged. That means, even if on Amazon, when you buy something, it's not charged until it's shipped. So it could be that you'll punch in the card on a Tuesday, and you're not going to see the charge until 4 or 5 days later. It's not going to actually be charged. No, it's not even. It sometimes doesn't even. They don't even put a hold. They don't charge it.
Usually they hold it right away.
Usually they put a hold, but sometimes not always they put a hold in it. A lot of times they put a hold in it. Now, if putting a hold is definitely not a kinyan. You could put a hold. The price sometimes certain things could change. The hold could get released. But once the actual charge is processed, then from their point of view, a kinyan was made. However, it's still not yours because they're responsible until it gets to you. And if it gets broken, they're responsible. If something belongs to you, if you buy something and it's fully yours, then the buyer is responsible if it gets damaged in transit. The buyer is responsible for everything else if it gets lost. It's not the responsibility of the seller. But the way it's accepted today, at least in America, is that the seller is responsible until a product is received in good condition by the buyer. Up until that moment, there's no kinyan.
I'm sure that's like the law. I mean,
It's not
stores do that because of courtesy, because they want people to have a good.
Right, it doesn't have to be the law. The whole concept of setumta is whatever is accepted between the
But the seller cannot sell it to somebody else.
Who they can't sell to somebody else.
Right, because that's the one who bought it, the kaineh, he doesn't have, he
Has something on it. He has some. He has a half a
He
chazaka.
can't, same way that he can't do it, the other can't do
Right,
it.
but he still has a responsibility towards it.
Can't have half.
Sure.
Either you have a chazukah or you don't have a chazukah.
Yeah, but-
half chazukah.
It's reserved for him. Could be that could be that the kid. The question is when does it become yours? And based on that, everything else is dependent on that. So it could
What you
be.
said before.
Yeah.
In other words, it becomes yours once it has arrived by you and you accepted it. Until that point, it's
So they can't sell it to somebody else
Right.
because it's still in the process of this kinyan.
The price goes up, it stays low.
If the guy what?
Price goes up.
Price goes
You
up.
can't do anything
You
about
can't
it.
do anything about it because he already signed it. It's like signing a contract.
His will went up.
Right, you sign a contract on a house. The price can't change. It's not yours until you actually
Close.
until you close. And it could be 3 months between closing. The seller can't sell it to anybody else. The buyer can't move into there, but it's not his. He doesn't have any until he actually does the closing. It's not his. So on credit cards, that's how it's seen. It depends on each industry the way it is, but you have to look at based on what the kinyan is. So this is, in essence, the main halachas which are relevant to the general operation of a business if you don't have any Jews involved. You're selling in a country which has no Jews. Now, what happens if you're in a place of Jews, or a lot of Jews, or somewhat of Jews? There's the issur of lifnei iver. This is the michshel. You're not allowed to. The issur of lifnei iver. There's also an issur of mesayela to help somebody do an aveda. So obviously, if the majority of the people using your website are goyim, if you're in a city where the majority are goyim, then you don't have a problem because you follow halachically, you follow the roiv. But what happens if you have a website in Israel? You're in trouble. You can't. There's no roiv. And if you have your website open on Shabbos, you're in essence causing Jews to do, even if there's a lot of Arabs over there, but still the majority are Yidden. So you have a issue of a website which is open on Shabbos in a place where Jews. If there's no Jews or there's very little Jews, then you don't have to worry about the issue of lifnei iver. Or mesayel v'aveda, because if a Jew decides to do it on his own, it's nothing to do with you. If you are not going to have your store open, he'll go buy it in a different store. If you have Amazon, you have 10 sellers. If this seller is not available, he'll go to the next seller. He's not going specifically for you. But in a place where you know that you're catering to Jews, then you have a problem. So, if you have knowledge, obviously you don't have to close down the website based on the chashash that maybe a Jew is going to use it for this reason of lifnei iver. But if there is a valid worry that Jews are going to use and you're going to cause them Mechal Shabbos, then you have that problem of lifnei iver.
Has to be a roiv of America. Is that America considered?
It's not a roiv of America. It doesn't have to be a roiv of America. It could be a roiv of your city. Depends where you're catering to.
I think B&H closes their website.
B&H closes because it's better to.
Even though it's the Roiv Goyim in America,
Yeah.
it still closes his website.
Yeah.
The Shabbos
Well, a
Motel.
website could be international. It's open to anyone to browse to and to make purchases.
Right. But you know yourself that if your website is in English and you're selling American flags, nobody from Korea is buying it.
Don't worry, no, America is also not buying it.
Even America's not buying it, yeah. The Chinese are selling it. So, obviously, the best scenario is close your website on Shabbos. For the hour that Shabbos is based on the time where you are. I'm not going to get into this into the whole topic now. It's not enough time. But Shabbos goes based on where you are, not where the buyers are. So even if somebody's going to do it on a different place, there's nothing you can do. Nothing you can do about it. But if you want to worry about the place where you are on Shabbos. Otherwise, you have to close the website for 3 days a week, from when it starts in Australia till when it ends in the other side of the date line in Alaska. Hawaii.
You can have programming.
There is a program.
Each place.
There-
Whatever.
There is a program which blocks.
And
Well, program? Now, within the actual websites, you can divide it into 3 categories. You have a website which belongs to the specific store. So you have a Jewish store, has a website, people go on the website, people place orders. The orders are not going to be processed on Shabbos. You compare it to an answering machine, nobody's processing any orders on Shabbos. The credit cards are not going to be processed until Monday. Even if there is banks are going to be closed, they're not going to process the charge. Anyways, you're not going to see the money until Monday anyways, so there's no... But even then, if you're worried about the fact that that you're creating a malacha, that something is working for you on Shabbos, then obviously it's better to have it closed. But there's no issur in having such a website open, because it's compared to an answering machine. And even if you compare it to you can't compare it to a vending machine because nothing is happening, or to complete automation because nothing is happening from it. It's really like an answering machine. Someone puts in his information, puts in what he wants to buy, and then when you come back on Mitzvah Shabbos, Sunday, Monday, you'll process the order.
What's if Shem Yisrael Olav?
Huh?
What's if Shem Yisrael Olav on the website?
So Shem Yisrael Olav So that is a question. You have Shem Yisrael, but today everybody knows that the website doesn't mean that somebody's processing it. You write on the website, there's no orders being processed from Friday 4 p.m. until Saturday 9 p.m. Then even if it says Shem Yisrael, there's no problem. Nobody thinks that you're working on Shabbos, and it's not your animal. Yeah.
Are you allowed to have a machine that sells on Shabbos?
Yeah. Yeah. You can, as long as it's not in your house or on your property. Yeah. That's the place you can say it's not a problem. Because you're not doing any action.
So maybe a Jew is going to do it though.
If a Jew is going to do it, you can't stop it.
Right,
But,
you're allowed to have it in your business, right?
Huh?
You're allowed to have it in your business, even though that's your property.
What do you mean?
In other words,
You can have it in a place where it's, your business is also supposed to be closed on Shabbos.
so then where would you have?
Vending machines are not there, or people have vending machines in the train stations.
Somebody calls up and leaves an order, like instead of an answering machine, he puts in the.
No, I think it's talking about a vending machine, not an answering machine.
Vending machines.
Vending machines. Answering machine, yeah, you can have in your
In your house,
in your
yeah.
business, in your house, yeah. Because something that work for you. It's not an animal. There's no the website's not an animal. The website's not even a keli because it doesn't do anything. It's not a real thing. That means there's nothing working for you on Shabbos.
It's not tangible.
It's not tangible, yeah. The next level is you have Amazon, you sell on Amazon, but you ship it yourself. Or other websites like that, eBay or other things that you sell it, it goes on their platform, but you ship it yourself. Over there also, since you're the one that's shipping it, so it's true that the website is going to do processing the payment, but it's all automatic. There is no guy who's working for you on Shabbos. Therefore, it's also, in my opinion, it's not a problem. The problem begins when you have FBA. Because you have fulfilled by Amazon, what happens is you send all your products to Amazon, and then they ship it for you. They take a percentage for it. They take a high percentage for it. They pack it, they ship it, and if somebody orders on Shabbos, there is a pretty high chance they're shipping it on Shabbos. They're not waiting till Monday to ship it. So if somebody has a FBA, then it becomes more of a problem. It goes to even though your credit card is not going to be credit card is going to be charged. It's Shabbos. You're not going to see the money till Monday, so there is still a way around it. But still, if you have FBA, the best way should be to have a goyish partner who will be dealing with the Shabbos money, because otherwise you're entering into shilas. If that's interesting, because if you have your own website, you could write nothing happens on Shabbos.
Why is Amazon not considered like a partner?
Huh?
Why is Amazon not considered like a partner?
How they become a partner?
They're making part of the money. Why isn't it like?
They're making part of the money because they're not partners. If you lose money,
They're working for you. They're working for the Eve. That's why.
they're working for you and they're getting paid for it.
Right.
If they'll be a partners, when you lose money, they'll pay you. They'll take a part of the loss. They don't take part of the loss when you lose money.
We said before, if you give spirit to a guy, you tell him go deal with it and whatever, and then he comes back to you later.
Right, but this is
and
not
he
the
gives you
same thing.
something.
This is not exactly.
Why is
the
this
same.
not the- you're
Because
not
he's
giving-
working for you. Amazon is working for you. They're fulfilling it, and you're paying them for it. So the mice are working for you.
So yeah, you could compare it. You could compare it to the case of giving it.
It's not a shuttle because he doesn't take a loss. No, Amazon doesn't. If hold it. I'll tell you right now why it's not a shuttle. If he sends it out,
Because they're responsible. But if your product loses value, they're not giving you the.
he has to replace it, not Amazon. Unless he has to replace the item. He replaces it. It's not a shuttle.
You could look at it as a shutfus. You could look at it as a shutfus. You could look at it that you're giving it to the guy to sell for you.
Look, you can look at it any way you
You
want.
can look at it any way you want. Let's put it this way: if somebody's doing it, he's not a. You can definitely find a strong head to say it's more. It's obviously better to figure out to do it in a better way. But if not, if there's no way of doing it, there is a head to. There are hetalim. You could compare it to this case, compare to that case. You could say that Amazon you should have. You could say that you're not the Kenyan is even though it was shipped on night of Shabbos. It was shipped on Shabbos. They're only getting it on Monday, so the Kenyan is not complete until then. And you can follow that the Kenyan doesn't. That you only follow when the Kenyan ends, not when the Kenyan starts. And even in the credit cards, anyway, it's not going to be posted to your account till Monday. Amazon's not going to release the money for another few days afterwards. So there is definitely, you could definitely say that it's mutter. However, again, if you have an issue of Marasayan over here, in general, if somebody sees that business is done on Shabbos, it might be a problem. So, by Amazon, there's no, nobody thinks that the Jew is working on Shabbos.
I'm done there are plenty of Jews who are partners in it.
In Amazon.
Of course.
They're investors.
Investors, of course.
Right, so they're
For that
investors.
matter, almost every company is like that.
Right, but they're not controlling stock.
Doesn't make any difference. But can he have an offer with another Jew with Michal Shabbos?
He's not having. There's so many partners over there that you could say that the money you made came from the guy, not
No,
from the
you
Yid.
don't do that because they
Breda.
don't divide it up like that.
It's Breda.
You don't divide it.
There's a Rishima from the Rebbe Bat Ribis.
What?
There's a Rishima, and Rishima is from the Rebbe Bat Ribis in the bank. Ribis in the bank. Interest in the bank. And the Rebbe gives a few svaras to say it's mutter. He doesn't paskin. He says svaras sakan. One of the svaras the Rebbe gives is that being that you don't, the one who's giving the money doesn't know who it's going to, and the one who's getting the money doesn't know where it's coming from. That's one svara why it's not a problem, even though the Jew is borrowing and the bank might have Jewish partners. Another one is you could say Breda that the Jew is taking the money only from the goyim who borrowed money, not from the Yidden who borrowed money, and therefore it's okay. So yeah, what I'm saying is, yes, there is definitely a strong case to say that keeping your website open on Shabbos is not a problem. If it's your own website, then you definitely have to have their disclaimer that no orders are processed on Shabbos, because everybody knows it's a Jewish website, that people know. And I was going to say over there, you could buy on Shabbos, and there's no disclaimer that it's being processed, not processed on Shabbos, people are going to think that it's are going to think that you're working on Shabbos.
What about like an affiliate site that you have a big company and that there's different like affiliates and that people like you basically tell people to go to your link and it's like basically the same like cookie cutter website that all the affiliates have and then like that's
Say it's not Shem Yisrael alone.
It's not Shem Yisrael.
I'm saying your name
Who's
is
shipping?
displayed. Your name is displayed on
Who's shipping the project? The product.
The company.
You're only making a cut from it.
Yeah, but the money is deposited right away in your
Can't
account.
be right away. They first have to process it and clear it through the bank.
I think it happens over the weekend. Also. If it happens over on Shabbos, then it's a problem.
It's not. Again, you could always say that it became automatic, so there's no. You could follow the automatic kav if you want. For all the scenarios, there's a heter.
Ask your local rabbi.
For all the scenarios, there's a heter. Each specific case is different. I'm just giving you a general overview that certain things you have to pay attention to. You have to look at certain things. You have a business that's open on Shabbos, you should, a website that's open on Shabbos, or you have Amazon or FBA, whichever one. You should speak to a rabbi before and see which way is, some of them are more of a problem, some of them are less of a problem. Some of them you might have to structure, you have to put a disclaimer, some of them you might have to structure differently. You might have to change your Amazon nickname or eBay nickname. Nobody should think that it's a Jewish name. That's a problem of Manasayan. Certain things you might want to not sell on these things. You're selling Svarim, you don't want to have a Jewish bookstore open on Shabbos. Then everybody's going to know that it's not a Geisha thing. So yeah, that's in short. So I'm not telling you what what you should do. I'm not telling you you are allowed to. I'm not telling you you're not allowed to. You overview, you decide. If it becomes a reality, you could call a rabbi and you could decide what to do.
What about processing a payment? I have a credit card due on Shabbos. Can I
Automatic?
Can I process on Friday that it should be paid on Shabbos?
What do you mean?
My due date is Shabbos. My credit card.
Yeah.
It's not
Can
going
I
to
go
get paid.
Friday and make a payment that it should be?
It doesn't go. The payment clears. The payment shows on your account. The credit card company will. There's two ways. Either they'll take it off the day you clicked send, or they'll take it off the day it comes out of your account.
So I'm saying I'm allowed to do it on Friday for Shabbos or not? I don't understand.
You're allowed to do it on Friday. You're not doing it in Malacha.
Even though I'm scheduling for Shabbos,
The payment is due on Shabbos.
You're dropping a check. You're dropping a check in the mail.
same thing.
Same thing. Processing a credit card on Shabbos was interesting. Shaila, we have 2 minutes to finish. An interesting Shaila. Shluchim who have chai clubs that they charge a credit card the same day every month. So it's definitely going to happen that there's going to be a Shabbos or a Yom Tov that's going to fall. You can't plan every year a specific day that's never going to fall on Shabbos or Yom Tov. Because the calendars, you go according to Goyish calendar. So the shaila is, if you're allowed to have such a thing, because the credit card is going to be processed, is going to be processed on Shabbos. People are going to think you sent the credit card on Shabbos. Not only that, sometimes you have everything automatic that it's going to send you an email that send you a thank you email on Shabbos also, because it's all automatic. So as long as it's known that it's automatic, it's not a problem. That means if it's known it's automatic, there's nobody doing a malacha for you, there's no problem doing it. But if there's a chashash that somebody is going to think about it, they think that you processed you had a secretary clicking process on Shabbos, then you have a problem.
You can program the computer that if January 8th, whatever the date is, falls on the Shabbos, push it off for one day.
Push it off. You could schedule, should be there every Monday.
Every you're right.
Okay.
Or 6 days a week, not Saturday.
Say that.
Rabbi Shuchat. Tomorrow night at 8 to 9, we'll be Rabbi Freiman will give a shir about the Medina, about the state of Israel according to the Rebbe's opinion on halacha. Everyone please come. There'll be good food catered from the